And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have Mr. Rich Parsons with us. He's co-hosting with me. He's a good friend of mine. He's associated with us. We're associated with him. He's associated with us. We're just one big association here. We consider each other family because that's what we are here. And I'm proud to say we got Dr. Karen and Dr. Fern Kazlow in house. Dr. K, I was thinking of me. And I just want to let her know that her communications is working right now. Hey, Doc, how you doing? Your mic is muted, but I want to let you know you're in the right studio. We'll be right back, okay? We'll be right back with you. We've been having some communication problems with her, and I was on the phone with her and all, and we're so glad that she's here. But my goodness gracious, we're so glad that you've tuned in today because we've got a great show for you. If you've ever wondered how the rich do it, the one percenters, as they call them, Dr. Fern Kazlow, Dr. K, she has worked with a multitude of people and helped them get from where they are to where they wanted to be in the upper 1%. But before we get started today, I just want to pay a little bill here and let Charlene welcome us to the show, and you too.
Hi, and welcome to the Messages of Inspiration and Hope show that's proudly sponsored by the 6-Minute Webinar. Today we have some exciting and very interesting guests, real people just like you and me. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the show. Now here's Jim.
Technology is wonderful, except when it doesn't work. Isn't that right, Rich?
That is true. It's a blessing and a curse.
Oh, it sure is. We can't wait to get Dr. K here with us on the show. But before we bring her on board, I'd like to ask you, if you'd be so kind, sir, is to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, if you would, please.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jim. So as you mentioned, Rich Parsons, I'm here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, enjoying some wonderful weather these days. And one of the big things that I've accomplished after retiring from the Air Force after 27 years is I've recently launched an e-magazine called Your Success. And that's been my baby for 2021, filling in the front cover, inside covers, and contributor spots on that has been really an area that I've been focusing on. And aside from that, I work as a success coach, helping people eliminate roadblocks and get to where they're performing at their very best every single day. And I'm looking forward to Dr. K's time with us today because I think she's going to just speak some wonderful stuff to the audience and really edify them and help them understand how the one percenters do what they do and to be successful and the benefit of having a coach and having somebody to help them out. So thanks for the opportunity to share a little.
Oh, well, thank you, sir, very much. And I got to say, is there a doctor in the house? Yes, I believe we have a doctor in the house. Dr. Karen, your mic is muted. Can you unmute your mic, please? I called her Dr. Karen. I'm thinking about Dr. Karen Perkins. Dr. K, would you be so kind as to unmute your mic, please? And while she's looking at that, and let's see here. Let's just go ahead and carry on a little bit. Let me put our website up there, first of all. Dr. Karen, Dr. K, you got to smack me, Rich, before she does.
Dr. K, Dr. K.
There we go. There we go. I got Dr. Karen Perkins on my mind. She's a great friend of ours, and she's been on the show several times, and she's just a real close friend of mine. We've been friends for many years. But Rich, you saw Dr. K's credentials. What did you think, brother?
Wow. What I thought when I read over her credentials and her bio was expert. Having put in 100,000 hours of research and training and doing so much to really just grow herself to be the expert in her field is quite impressive. And the fact that she does psychotherapy, and she founded integrative therapy as a holistic center that's global. Just seeing all of that really made me realize that we've got an expert that's going to be sharing with us today. And I see that you're in communication probably with Dr. K right now. So
Yeah.
I'll just kind of keep going a little bit. When you have somebody that it says that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. Well, when you look at that and you consider that Dr. K has put in 10 times that, that just means that we've got 10 times the expert prepared to speak with our audience today. So anyway, we're definitely blessed to have her on board.
Absolutely. And she has texted me, says she's got to use the computer mic. And I told her that's okay. We'll be glad to do that. So she's got another system there, and she's struggling with it a little bit, but that's okay. So ladies and gentlemen, if you hear in the background someone taking a sledgehammer to a computer, it might be Dr. K, but just ignore it.
It might be.
I mean to tell you, while she's working on that, I'd like to share a little bit about the 6-minute webinar. This is our sponsor. If you're trying to get your perfect message out to your perfect client, one message, the 6-minute webinar is for you. In fact, Rich, let me do this right quick, if I may. I think you made some comments about the 6-minute webinar. We'll be right back.
The 6-minute webinar allows you to create a marketing product in a fraction of the time that it would typically take to create a webinar. And when you follow the simple process, you will provide laser-focused content to your ideal customers. And the nice thing is, it's repeatable for any product or service that you offer. My name's Rich Parsons, founder of Higher Calling Consulting. And creating my own 6-minute webinars has allowed me to have a 24/7 marketing presence for my ideal clients. So I encourage you to make the 6-minute webinar part of your business marketing strategy too.
And while we're waiting on Dr. K to get her technical thing, she says, I am so sorry. I said, don't worry about it, Doc. I mean, I've had problems with technical things, from time to time. It's no big
We all
deal.
have.
But over in, we have, let's see if she's available now. Let's see if we have a doctor in the house.
You do. Oh my goodness. What a lesson in life and what we can't control.
Bless her heart. She called me and I said, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. And I know how stressful that is when we're looking so forward to being on the show. We were looking so forward to having her on the show and to have technical issues like that. You go, holy enchiladas, what's going on here? Is Jupiter in line with Pluto and pulling the cosmic universe out of whack or what?
Yeah, it could be, or it could be a lesson in what we can't control and a little practice with acceptance. And I appreciate your graciousness because there was nothing I could do.
I know. It's
So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
When I was on the original, the way this show got started, I don't know if you know about our history, Dr. K, but that's how we met Rich Parsons. It started in March of 2020. We were all on lockdown. And Bill Heinrich, one of our executive training directors, he says, hey, we got Zoom, we got Facebook Live. Why don't we just put on some shows and call it Messages of Inspiration and Hope? And Support was the original name. And we said, hey, that's right. And everybody just bought into it. And Don says, I can do this. Sony says, I can do that. And Tamara says, I can do this. And then Don says, Jim. I said, yeah. He says, you can be the host. Okay. So I was voluntold to be the host. But this
I love that. Voluntold.
Yeah. This thing generated its own energy. Rich was on twice. gave two great messages of inspiration and hope. And it was in September, I think it was. Tamara Hunter called me and she says, Jim, you got a great show. You need to take this to E360 TV. I said, okay. And so when I tell people I backed into radio and I backed into TV, I'm not making this up. I backed into it. But enough about me and enough about the show. Dr. K, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to the audience and share a little bit about yourself, please?
Okay, so first, again, I want to say thank you. I'm so excited to be here. We've talked about this for a while, and despite all the stuff of life, we're finally doing it. So a little bit about me. My background is that for the last 35 plus years, I've been spearheading integrative breakthrough approaches to mind-body health and business. I'm a clinical psychotherapist, a business marketing strategist, and a mentor to high achievers, which is my specialty. Kind of an interesting mix. So basically bringing together psychology, peak performance, and business. I spent over 100,000 hours teaching, researching, consulting, doing psychotherapy, really rolling my sleeves up and working with high achievers. And I'm actually writing a book on that subject right now. I've been featured in a lot of the major media, ABC, NBC, New York Times, a whole bunch of others. But this is my passion, is really shattering limitations and helping others to do the same.
And she can also say she's been on the Messages of Inspiration and Hope on E360 TV.
Yes, and that it wasn't easy to get on the show.
That's right. We've been communicating for how many months? You know, I mean, it's been several months, and sometimes I send her some of my things that I've experienced in life, and you know, so she knows more about me than I know about her. But I tell you, we've had a lot of fun to process.
And you are a great storyteller. There have been many mornings that I've awakened to your awesome stories or gone to bed. Oh, that sounds funny if I say I've gone to bed to your stories, doesn't it?
Okay.
But it's the truth. Awesome stories with awesome messages of inspiration that I have loved receiving. So, yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Rich, in the opening remarks, when I did the pre-broadcast and the announcement, you know, there's a lot of people out there who are sitting, and there's people that's struggling, and there's people trying to get their wheels, you know, on solid ground. They're spinning their wheels in the mud. And with your, you know, your messages of inspiration and hope and your experience and your new thing about the e-magazine, and with Dr. K here today, oh my goodness, Rich. Just share what's on your mind, if you would, please.
Well, you know, I think that on several of the shows now, it's been a perfect alignment with the guest and just the messages that are coming out. You know, Dr. K, as I read over your bio and all the stuff that you've been working on, and you may not have heard it, I think you may have dropped off the line, but you know, they say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, and you've done that 10 times over. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to share with the audience today, because I truly feel as though, and there was one word I used to summarize this, or summarize you, and that is expert. And I really feel that you're going to be able to share a perspective of just what it means to be successful in life and in business, and to be able to bring some of those stories from those top 1%ers and how you help them maximize everything that they have within them and become better so that they can perform at the highest levels. And I'm just looking forward to what you have to share with us today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it is like 10 times, 10 times, 10 times, 10 times, 10 times. And it's given me a great vantage point, both humbling and also incredibly educational. And the good news is that I love it. I have loved pretty much, you know, people laugh because they say you get bored or you get whatever, but I really don't. I walk out of sessions and I look at my kids and I literally say sometimes, I love what I do. And the learning and being able to make a difference in so many lives. One of the things for me that I love about working with high achievers and high impactors is that it's exponentially grows the impact that I can have. So if I can help somebody who's impactful to have even more impact and to live a life and enjoy the journey along the way, then that's huge. And one of the things I also say is that I'm the number one authority in peak performer resistance. We'll talk about resistance some because that's really one of the key factors. And I also say that I know that because I probably have spent 100,000 hours resistant. I'm the resistor in chief as well. I don't know if it's 100,000 hours resisting, but I understand it. And it's one of the key things that when we can work with that within ourselves and when we can work with that in others, it's key. I was actually writing, I didn't get to finish it yet, but I was writing a comment on a post in Facebook this morning. And somebody was talking about, kind of the mess of what's going on in the world with the police and, all the things that are so heartbreaking and so challenging. And this is a very good friend, very smart person. He was talking about the need for police to have de-escalation, right? To have de-escalation training. And I said I wanted to add to that. And what I wanted to add is that we all need de-escalation training to work with ourselves and with others because we're not taught how to work with others' resistance. And one of the big issues that you hear over and over and over, again, you can say, what does this have to do with peak performance? But it's the same thing, is that things escalate. The subjects resist arrest. Well, we resist arrest too. And we end up in a lot of trouble as well. It may be death, it may not be. It may be the death of our business, maybe death of our relationships, maybe death of our spirit, or someplace not so severe along the way. But we don't get taught how to work with our own resistance and to help others and communicate with them so that we open them to being connected, to changing, to growing, to working collaboratively. And instead we do the opposite, not because we're bad people, and not because those cops are bad people, for the most part. I mean, we could get into bad apples and everything, but because nobody teaches us. And we can think of that little 2-year-old or the 18-month-old that goes no, and how hard a time parents have when that starts happening. Wouldn't it be cool if we learned to work with that no space?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Wouldn't it be amazing?
I imagine in your line of work, one of the things that you have to address and deal with, because by nature, we kind of resist change. And we don't want to come out of our comfort zone. And Rich, I know that you've worked on that and you've worked with others because it's perfectly normal, perfectly natural, perfectly human, but it's also the thing that can hold us back.
Or can move us forward. I have a friend who put it this way after listening to me. He said, it's taking our kryptonite and making it our superpower. And I love that because that really speaks to it. And, people talk about sabotage, right? And we want to be in our comfort zone. And they make it often, and I'm not saying you are, but they often make it like we're being a little bit lazy or we're sabotaging ourselves. And it's really the opposite. We're trying to do something really great, but we're trying to do it in a way that we don't know how to do it any better. And so it misfires big time, right? But when people say they're in their comfort zone, what I say is what they're trying to do is be safe and secure while making a difference. They're using the things that got them to a certain place, which worked before. But now people say what got you here won't get you there. I say what got you here is now precisely, exactly what's keeping you from getting where you want to go next. So that comfort zone is meant to help us be safe and succeed. And there's this little bit of tension or a lot of tension between what we want to accomplish and our need as humans to be safe and secure. And so we're often in judgment of that comfort zone when what I want people to do is to understand what they're trying to accomplish so we can help them do it in a more effective, more pleasurable way.
To embrace it.
Like self-preservation. That's our natural instinct, is to preserve and to keep that safety and security. And when we have something in our life that is butting up against that and creating discomfort, our natural tendency is to pull back and want to assess the situation. But when we have somebody, and that's why I think it's important to have a coach to come along and help you assess that, realize that you can still be comfortable, you can still be in control, but stepping forward, because everything that you do today is preparing you for tomorrow. Everything you did yesterday is what's happening today. And so when we can build on that, it makes things so much better along the way.
Yeah, I love what you just said, that stepping forward, because when we're scared, when we're in fear, right, we're wired to look for safety. And the way we do it is we freeze, we flee, we fight. And if it goes on for too long, we collapse. And so those are what we're wired to do. But the really great thing is that as humans, working with somebody who understands that, they can help us to regulate our nervous system and to change our responses so that our responses will help us along the way to what we want to create. And what you said about a coach is key. Those kind of changes, you can only go so far for the most part, like 99.999% of people, without doing that in the context of relationship. You've got to be with somebody, and you know it from what you do. We all know it, right? It's like you need somebody who has not only been there, but knows how to get you there. Who can hold the space for what you may not even be able to see it. You may not even be able to see it. We can only see what we can see when we see it. But until we change the glasses, clear them off, get a new prescription, maybe have surgery if necessary, or do something, we can only see what we can see. So we need somebody to help us see beyond and shift the paradigm so we see things we never saw before.
One of the things that I tell people, Rich, and I know you have too, is that when I'm speaking to the folks out there, whether they're watching us live or on replay, Roku, wherever, Apple, you need to surround yourself with like-minded people and put together a good think tank. Because when you're talking about things, you will be amazed how people will come with great ideas. And this is what Dr. K is talking about. They can pull back the wool in front of your eyes so you can see more clearly, because so many times we get caught up in the process. And one of the problems that I've made in my life, and Bill Heinrich correct me on this, I like to make decisions. And that is one of the worst things you can do, because then you put everything in a mental box and it's got to fit, because this is my decision. This is my baby, right? And Bill just says, Jim, quit making decisions. They're not good for you. I said, okay. He says, start making choices. I said, I like that. Okay, if this doesn't work, I'll choose that. But it really takes a load off your mind. And Rich, I know you've come a long way since we first met, and I have too. And, I know that you've got some ideas you'd like to share. So please go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, I tell you exactly what Dr. K was talking about is being able to realize that that we can't always do things on our own. And, they say that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So being with like-minded people is a good thing, as long as it's like-minded people that are in a better place than you. They've done what you're trying to do. They've accomplished something. We can't always be the smartest person in the room. When that happens, that's really based in fear and ego, is what that comes down to, because if we have to build ourselves up so much to where we are the authority on something, and we don't want to have anybody smarter than us around, we're doing ourselves a disservice. And I often would coach people on getting out of the room that you're in if it's not benefiting you and helping you move forward, creating new people or new relationships with people, finding a new circle to be in. And I've used an analogy from the military before, where in the military, if you're out on a convoy or you're in a situation that's hazardous, you have rings that you go through. So you have your 5-meter ring, your 10-meter, your 25-meter, and out. And what that means is the stuff that's closest to you is the most dangerous, because that's the current threat. And I look at relationships in your circle as being the same. I think in your circle of your sphere of influence, your circle of trust, there needs to be rings there. People come into your ecosystem, come into your circle, but they're not always the ones that are right up against you, because you got to have trusted people there. So I think that creating relationships with the right people at the right time and at the right level is very important. And I'm sure that Dr. K, as you've worked with high performers, you probably see that they have the right people closest to them. And then they have people that they're learning from and growing from that work their way in. It doesn't just happen overnight.
No, this is a great point, because we tend to go to the like-minded people, but top 1%ers will often seek out the people who challenge them. You want people who maybe have core values that you have, but you want different perspective. Otherwise, you don't need, be by yourself in an echo chamber. And I think one of the things that's happening in this world today is that people are looking for people that are in an echo chamber, when the gold of life and richness and what we're going to get through the challenges that we have today or by people who have different perspectives coming together and really hearing each other, connecting. So one of the things I do see is that people who are top 1%ers, they will very much surround themselves with people who challenge them. If I ask them about who's most vital and who's helped them the most, and tell me about somebody that has changed your life, you'll hear a story. It's never a story about, oh, they said exactly what I did was right. Now, they may say they believed in me, because often we have struggles because people haven't believed in us. But the other thing that I hear people say over and over is they challenged me. They didn't let me get away with stuff. They opened my eyes to things that I couldn't see before. It's like 20/40 vision. You just can't see everything. Sometimes it's 20/60, or sometimes it's way, your vision is way less. But people who are successful have pretty good vision. And that becomes just the problem. One of the things that happens is that it's helped them to be so successful that not only is it what they see, and when they talk about confirmation bias, we see everything that proves that what we believe is true. The other thing that happens is that we know what we have, it's worked, so we're afraid to let go of it, because after all, it's gotten us pretty far, right? If you're highly successful, doing what you've done has worked. So it's very scary to have your identity change. And if you don't grow, your business doesn't grow, your relationships, your health, nothing grows, right? It's like, and you're either growing or you're going the opposite. There's no treading water for very long. The thing that does that is inviting in a collaborative way people who see things differently, who hear things differently, who know things that you don't know yet. And so that's that growing edge. Somebody wrote something today that I was reading, and they talked about, it's not about how well I listen, it's about how well I understand. And I thought that was brilliant, because one of the things that people say about me that is my favorite thing that people say about me is they say, Dr. K, you get me in a way that nobody else does. They say either you help me like nobody else did, or I know you can help me. And the key thing is you get me in a way that nobody else does. And that's because of, I listen to understand. I don't listen to prove how smart I am. I don't listen to bring I bring the knowledge of 35 plus years of working, and I'm always open to how it applies to this person, or maybe it's different. Maybe this is the exception. I want to listen to them. So I don't come in with my pre-designed ideas of who they are, how it is, what they need. One of the biggest things that trip people up, and I bet the two of you see it, is somebody has a system, a coaching system, a health system, a diet system, or whatever, and it's worked for them, and they're really excited, and they want to share it. Problem is, they are not every person. And you can take those ideas, and then you have to see if they're applicable, and if so, how you have to adapt them. And we tend to get stuck there. We don't do that. So the more we can bring our knowledge and then take in the other person, the more they're going to feel, wow, you get me like nobody else does. The more they're going to open. They're not going to resist. If somebody feels we don't understand them, what do? They go like this, right? They get defensive. But if they feel that we're taking them in, they lean forward. So I love this, from what you're saying, it just opens so many avenues that are life-changing.
And when you were talking about how the 1%ers look for those that challenge them and all that, this may be a poor analogy, folks, but what flashed in my mind was like boxers when they're, trying to move up the ranks, and they know to move up the ranks, they got to fight someone that's more advanced than they are. So the higher boxer and his talent and their ability is going to challenge them to step it up. And that's how they, all of them that reach the upper levels, who reach championship or in the top 10 or whatever, they all have to do that. There's no exceptions. And that's a great analogy, to me, because that's, I relate to that. And when you're talking about the one percenters, they like people to challenge them, because that brings out the best in them.
And the key is, right, it does. And the key for all of us is to learn how to do that in a way that invites people to open, not to dump on people, not to tell them how they should be, not to tell them how it is, but to point things out. To questions are the best, like real honest questions open people up when you want to hear from them. I will always say, you want to hear another perspective, right? I'll do that before I offer something. Would you like to hear how I look at that? They can say no, or they can say yes. They've invited me in. It's really important. It's not like tough love and harshness or meanness, or I'm going to be in judgment. It really is being discriminating, discerning, opening other doors, and doing it in a way that we think about. I always ask the question, is this question, or the way I'm about to propose it, going to open somebody up so that they can hear it more? Or is it going to shut them down? I do that as much as I can in life. I don't always succeed. I do it really well in sessions with people. But I'm always saying that before I speak. A lot of people listen for how they're going to respond. I listen and I think about how they're wired up, what's important to them, and what it is that I can do so that I can help them open and be more of who they want to be, and create more of what they want to create. So I think about what I say and how I say it, not just like this is the way it is, but I want to say it in a way that's going to open them to moving and evolving into that who they need to be to create what they want.
Yeah, that's so true, because, Rich, what motivates one person will not motivate another person,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think something that was important that you were talking about there is, when you said the understand, so you can hear people, you can listen, and you can understand. And if all you do is I hear noise, I listen to somebody, and if I'm not attending to them and I'm not listening, it just remains noise. But to go to that deeper level and do what Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand, then be understood, is important, because when we understand somebody, we're then able to structure our communication, responses to things, our actions. So much of what we do, even our energy, is going to be based off of our understanding of something, be it right or wrong. Our energy is going to flow based off of that understanding. And I'm sure you see that quite often. And another thing that was coming to mind as you were talking was the importance of masterminds. So when you go into masterminds, you have people that are likely better than you. They should be, because the people that are coming into those masterminds, the expert in the seat that is providing advice or putting somebody on a hot seat and just filling them full of whatever feedback they need to be successful. That's a great example, I believe, of how we can associate with those top performers, with those top 1%ers, and get what we need to be successful, to get out of our comfort zone and realize that there's people out there that can set us up for success going into the future.
Yeah.
We've put on several events and things like that. And one of the things that we've done several times is have the hot seat. And I never will forget one lady that was with us up in Colorado Springs there, when we did the Pathway for Vets event up there. And who wants to be next on the hot seat? She raised her hand. And she shared what she was trying to do. And what was really amazing about her was that some of the great, loving, and understanding feedback she got, it brought tears to her eyes, because it enabled her to realize this is what's holding you back. This is why your head keeps hitting the ceiling and you can't go higher. And when you do things like that with a loving and understanding heart, she really embraced it. She came up to me and she said, "This is the greatest event I've ever been to." And she says, "I want to thank you and Don McGrath for putting it on." I said, what made it a great event was you. We didn't, we just had put up I was the MC of the place, and we had the place and all that. But I mean, the people is the ones that made the event great, the people that came. And she was just, oh, she really touched everybody's heart. Fantastic young lady. It was a pleasure and an honor for us to be there. And that was one of many things that touched her heart during that event. And, but I'll share that story a little later if time permits. But Dr. K, I tell you, goodness, you say you've been doing this for 35 years. I mean, my goodness gracious. And you've seen you've helped a multitude of people get from where they are to where they want to be. And oh my goodness, I can just imagine how you feel when you see someone that struggled and maybe even struggled, following your advice and what you're sharing with them, and to see them overcome those struggles and go up. How does that make you feel?
I mean, it's just, it's tremendous. It is just, this really, I don't know even how to put it to words.
That's why you love what you do.
That's why I love what I do. That's why I literally walk out of my office and I just have this big smile, because whether it's working with, business to help somebody build their business, whether it's helping someone's marketing or branding and they have a big aha, whether it's working with a family, whether it's working with somebody who's just struggled hitting the same wall over and over and over again. One of the things that happens, it's kind of one of the fun things about high achievers. I do like challenges, and we can be challenging, as I'm sure you guys know, right? And our listeners, many of us can relate to that. So one of the things that happens with high achievers is that they can be very compelling. So they go into a coach, a class, a coach, mentor, and they present the problem. And normally what happens is you'll work with a coach or mentor and you'll tell them what's going on and they'll help you to move, right? To see it another way to move out. Well, high achievers are so good at resisting because they have a lot on the line, like we talked about, right? They've been successful at work. They're not bad. They're not trying to do it for a bad reason, but they don't know another way to do it. But they're so effective and so compelling that often what they do is they bring the coach, the mentor, the therapist down the rabbit hole with them. And then everybody agrees that the limitation is real. And so when I go in and can take that, often people have come to me, they've been from, therapist and coach and mentor and on and on and on and struggled with something for years. And they've always presented the problem. And let me give you an example. Like maybe the problem that they presented is that they can only grow past a certain dollar amount. Maybe they can't get their business to $1 million. Maybe they can't get it to 3 million. Maybe they can't get it to 300,000, whatever it is. And they really want the money to take care of their family. They want to impact more people. They want to be of service. And of course, if you're not making that money, you're not serving as many people. So they're very frustrated because they have tried everything that they want to try. And everybody ended up kind of saying, yeah, we just don't get it, whatever it is. Or they've given them their system. And when it didn't work, they blamed the person. They said, oh, you didn't try hard enough. You didn't do it exactly the way I said. Yeah, because it didn't work for them exactly the way they said, right? So they shouldn't have. But what's interesting is that that's a true problem. I can't get my business above a certain point, but it's not the core problem. So you get to the core. So you still have to do the funnels and the lead gen and know how to sell and brand and all of those things. So you likely have something to fix there because it doesn't work, especially if you're a high achiever, if it's not a real problem. So you've got a real problem. But the core may be something like, I'm afraid that if my business grows that much, my health won't sustain it. Or I'll have to spend too much time and it'll hurt my relationship. Or maybe my brother will feel bad because he's struggling. He can barely make ends meet and I'm going to be up here. Or maybe you're afraid your brother's going to ask you to take care of him and his family. So there's so many different things. And when you just go down the rabbit hole of the business, which you have to do, what'll happen is it'll work for a while. It'll get better for a while. It won't get better. It'll be frustrating. You've got to do both. That's why I always say I bring the lens of a clinical psychotherapist and a business and marketing strategist to help high-achieving entrepreneurs not only have better impact, influence, income, but to enjoy the journey, to have a life that's purposeful and that's fun, and where they're happy, that they continue to grow from. But that's a really key issue, is that they're so good at it. They're so good at being compelling that they don't get the help that they really want, or they wouldn't be there.
Right.
But they
Right.
don't, everybody doesn't get it. So I feel awesome when I can take somebody who's struggled like that and has felt that they're the problem, and nobody's going to ever help them because they've tried 6 different really famous people, and they've really tried and it didn't work because they didn't get at the core. When you do the business and you get to that core, then they implement with a whole different energy, with a whole different look on their face, with a whole different ability to follow through, with a whole different ability to hear their clients or their prospects, and everything changes.
Absolutely. And, as you're sitting there and you're talking, I can see myself and some of my limitations when I had this baggage up here that I treasured. And I'd like to share a story with you. Back when I had my manufacturing business, I had to take care of a unpleasant situation that was bothering me. And what was unpleasant about it, ladies and gentlemen, I had to pay a bill and I didn't have the money. Okay, that's unpleasant. I don't care there's no other way to slice that out. And my invoice had not been paid for my customer. My customer called me and wanted me to do some more work. And I mean, I had a lot of money tied up in this project. A lot of money. We had lined a 12-mile line, 12-mile long conveying system at a mine. Okay. And they fired their other contractor, said, "Hey, we want you to come down here and finish the job." And I'm thinking, oh man, I got all this money tied up. My books look good, but it's kind of like, you can't eat today what's going to be coming in tomorrow, So I worried about it, and I got up one morning it was about 4:30 in the morning. It's in summertime. We're in the middle of a drought. And I get up there and I said, well, I'm going to call the guy at 9:00 in the morning. I'm not going to wrestle with this thing anymore. I was drinking my coffee and this clear thought came to my mind. It says, do you hear the birds singing? And I stopped and I listened to the morning birds, and they're so beautiful. And as I was listening to their beautiful morning songs, the next thought that came to my mind, even they will sing in the middle of a drought. I thought, wow. And that really brought me back to planet Earth. And it was just I know where the thought came from, but it was a clear thought. It wasn't some loud booming voice. If it had been said, "Hey, Moron, yeah, this is JC. Me and Big Daddy, we need to talk to you, buddy." But it just amazes me how we can get caught up in the process rather than the content of life. Because whatever you do, it is a lifestyle. You've got to love it. You've got to embrace it. And you got to be open-minded. And you got to have some, we call it tough love and all those good things. And I love the way you put it is listening to someone and saying, okay, I understand where you're coming from. That is key, because that's the way you open the door to people. If they know that you understand them, they also know that you like them. You're investing in them. And that's very important, isn't it?
It is super, super important. It's key. You're making me think about a story that I'd like to share about how I wasn't in a place to receive information like you're talking about. So I live in New York and Westchester, and there's a lot of rocks. So whenever the trees don't have very deep roots, we have a lot of storms. Trees come down, we lose power, often for 2 weeks at a time. And one day we had a storm. And Con Ed, which is our electric company, told us that the power was going to be on in a couple of hours. Now, I had enough experience to know that had about 0.5% chance of being true, but I wanted it to be true, and I listened. And so when that didn't happen, I got mad. And so I called them back, and I'm kind of like disgruntled, and I'm like, blah, blah. And they kind of say, yeah, it's going to be like another hour or two. Another hour or two, did I believe it? I should have known better, but I wanted to believe it. And I probably was kind of in my mad. So we did this for a couple of hours. My husband came in and he was listening to me talk to these poor people. And he said to me, how long do you want to be mad? Is this what you teach? And I was like, no, but I want to be mad a while longer. So finally, it was really late. By this point, I was worried because I have animals, right? I have a bunch of dogs, I have a bunch of birds. And the dogs you can do pretty well with, blankets and covers, but the birds, not so much. So at this point, I was really upset because if I had listened to myself, right, trusted myself, I would have picked up about 6 hours earlier and gone to somebody's house or a hotel or someplace where I don't know if I would have been welcome at the hotel with all my animals, but I would have gone someplace to safety and warmth. And I didn't know what to do. Now I've learned this, and I always know. So anybody who has birds, this is a great tip. But what was really interesting is as long as I was mad, as long as I was choosing, and I knew well enough because I taught it. This is a long time ago, but I still knew that I was choosing to be mad, that I could have decided to just let go of it and figure it out, let it come to me, whatever. Well, the moment that I said, okay, I'm done. I've been mad. You know this. It's your own responsibility because you know that they don't tell the truth. You know they don't tell the truth. And you're choosing to, believe them and then kind of be mad at some poor agent. The moment I made that shift from the end of the hall, my daughter, who was fast asleep, woke up literally in that moment. And she said, Mom, I figured it out. I know what to do to save the birds. In that moment, in that instant. So it's kind of that when you told the story about the drought and the birds, it was like I couldn't come up with how to save them. They would have died, no question. Okay. But now I have used this over and over and over and over. And the little quick tip for anybody who does have birds, what I did was I had a gas stove. I put them in a tiny bathroom. I've done this in bigger rooms tented with sheets. I put under their cages hot water, not so hot they'd get burned, but hot water, tented it, and for hours, or I put it in the small bathroom that night, a couple of tubs of water. For a couple of hours, they were warm, and then I did it again. I have used this a gazillion times because I still live where it's rocky in Westchester, and my birds are fine. But I couldn't figure it out. And I didn't figure it out. My daughter down the hall couldn't figure it out. She literally, when I was in the frame of being angry, not being, responsible, right? Because I knew they don't tell the truth most of the time. They don't know. They don't, they just say stuff to get you off the phone and calm you down for the moment. And I didn't follow what I knew. As soon as I took responsibility, I let go. I shifted. I mastered my state, mastered my shift, and stopped it, right? And opened up. Then my daughter down the hall came up with a solution. It's an amazing story to me even today that I literally could make a shift and hear her scream, Mom, I know what to do. She was a little girl.
Wow.
It was amazing. The thinking of a child was able to come up with a solution to the problem.
But she couldn't when I was acting kind of like an ass. Can I say that? I was kind of acting like that. I was kind of acting like an ass, and I knew it, and I wasn't choosing to be different. Once I chose to have a different relationship to what is, then not only did I feel better, but she was free to be resourceful.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Sometimes when I get mad, which is, I don't get as mad like I used to when I was younger. But, I remember one time my wife came and she said something to me. I says, she saw I was upset. She says, what's the matter? I says, leave me alone. I'm enjoying myself. And that's all I wanted to say to her. That way she knew that leave him alone. He'll be all right. We won't have to call the, rescue squad or anything.
Well, that's key, because what I do now when I get mad is I ask myself, how long would you like to stay mad? Like, how long do you want to be in this state? Like, your choice. So if my husband comes in and he'll say, like, better, I'll say, leave me alone, like you do. But then I'll say to me, once, I call it the jig is up. Because once you know that it's your responsibility and you can change it. Like changing their state, literally. Something I call 5-second Kazlow anchor on the spot. Then how long are you going to choose to be mad when you know it's all you that's doing it, or to be in grief? You let it flow through. It doesn't mean you don't get mad. It doesn't mean you don't have grief. It doesn't mean you don't get scared. But you take the information and you let the emotion move through.
Yeah. Just like right before the show, Dr.K called me and she's having trouble with all that. And my attitude was, it's okay. We'll be all right.
And as soon as you said that, it was like, because I was feeling terrible. It's not my style to not be, like I'm there early and there I was and I'm late and I can't get in and you're messaging me, where are you? I'm in the studio. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying. But when you said that, it was so gracious. You didn't say, yeah, it's 5 minutes, you're 5 minutes late. When you said that, it really literally was a huge invitation for me to change my state. And we did get on there. Everything
Oh,
changed.
yeah.
So we make these little statements with people, and we don't think about often how a little
Oh,
thing
yeah.
that we say, there were a lot of things, as I shared, that were challenging today. And you had that little bit of kindness and perspective. And it was just like, yeah.
Well,
It was
I
just a
also,
different way of thinking.
yeah. I also knew that, if we couldn't get you on, no problem, because me and Rich, we talk a little bit, and I know Rich loves to sing, and I just sat back and let him sing. Rich has been, a lot of people know about Rich. He's been requested to be a backup singer many times in his life. He's kind of shy and won't admit that, but it's true. They keep telling him, back up, back up.
Yeah. Say that about me. Like sing back there.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I tell you
And
what,
this
we
guy,
have.
Jim Grant, he tends to call every now and then and say, hey, have I got an opportunity for you?
Absolutely, because Charlene, she's a airline, works with an airline. She's a trainer, and they had one of the students there get COVID, and they were on lockdown, and she couldn't make the show. So I called up Rich, and I said, I'd like for you to help me co-host today. And he said, yeah, sure, brother. And I mean, but yeah, it's all about, helping one another and having fun in the process, loving what you're doing. And my thing, and I tell people this all the time, when people come to us at Scale Pathway or the 6-minute webinar, we ask them, what is it you want to do? And sometimes they say, I want to make money. Well, that's the most horrible answer you can give, because it's all about you. You got to come from the heart, and your focus has got to be, how can I be a blessing to someone else to help them get from where they are to where they want to be? Or how can I help them, get rid of their pain? You focus on that and being a good servant.
Yeah, one
The
of the things
reward will come.
in my practice is that people who are only about the money. I mean, I work with a lot of people who are successful and want to make money. I would say I work with the top 1% and people who are committed to that. It's not always about money. You can be top 1% in a lot of arenas that don't pay a lot of money, right? But if they're just about the money and just about the lifestyle, they're not the person for me. I'm about making a difference. And I want to work with people. So people often say to me, top 1%, it's just like, I don't have that much money. And I'm like, there are different ways. You can work with me privately. That may be more money. I do, group situations where people that are committed, that are really committed to being in that top 1% for them. And that's different. You can be a top 1% parent. You can be a top 1% salesperson. You can be a top 1% teacher. It's not just about money. And I think, people say to me like, but you're not just about the money. I'm like, no, but I am really about making the biggest difference in a way that we can live, not like a grind, like what we're talking about, not just grit, but in a way that you have a life, you enrich your life, your families, your friends, and everybody that you touch. Because I'm not much of a role model. I do work with driven people, okay? And you can kind of tell my vibe is I'm driven. But it's also about family. It's about friends. It's about relationship. And that's who I want to work with. And I've considered, okay, can I say something funny? Sure. Or I think it's funny. Maybe I've considered, you kind of said it was okay to share like personal funny things. I don't know if I'd really do this, but I've kind of joked that I was going to limit my practice and my business to people who either have or love animals. Particularly dogs, but other animals as well. Yeah. Because if you don't have an open heart for that, not everybody can have an animal. Okay, just not everybody can. But if you don't have an open heart, there's something that's really different. Now, I do go a little bit overboard. I have a full house, right? I do 4 dogs, 3 birds, and I'm always in danger of more. But there's a heart about it. The animal, they have a heart that you just, it's just amazing. So people don't appreciate that. And it is a joke. I do have people, well, it isn't, it isn't. I have people that don't have animals, but I don't work with people who are shut down in their hearts. And that's
absolutely.
Really cool.
You talk about dogs there. I've said this many times on the show before because it's so true. Can you imagine what a wonderful world this would be if everyone had the heart of the family dog? I mean, unconditional love, and because that's that's what we should do. We should love ourselves first and then look for ways to love others. That's what Dr. K is talking about. That will help you get to the 1% and, be there. And because having a compassion to help others and be a service to others, that's what raises you above the rest of the crowd there. And we practice that here on our TV show, because every one of my guests that's on here, I find ways to introduce them to others. And I'm going to introduce Dr. K to a young lady that is putting on a summit over in Pakistan. We're going to have her on the show, and we're going to be, all of the hosts is going to be over there and with her during her summit. And it's just, give her TV time, and we have summit time there. It's a win-win situation. That's how you come from the heart, and that's what you do. And that's the way we roll. I mean, I'm not smart enough to be roll any higher than that. So, but I mean, hey, if I love what I'm doing, and I have people that love me and enjoy me and appreciate me, hey, what more can you? That puts the icing on the cake of life. Would you say, Rich?
So, is there anything else that you would like me to share with your audience before I know we're kind of
we're getting close to the 4:00 hour. Rich, do you have any thing you'd like for her to share, or anything comes to mind? Or
I do. If you could take a couple minutes, and there's a question I've been wanting to ask you, and just kind of waiting for the right time is, so what is the difference that you see, as we've determined, the top 1% doesn't necessarily just mean money. What is their level of self-discipline like for the top 1%? What is it that makes them stand out as the top 1%?
So I'm going to share that what stands out to me, they're disciplined, but not necessarily disciplined. Some of them are uber disciplined, but others are really, I don't want to say just following their passion, are following their passion. I'll often ask or be asked a question like, why am I doing that? And they will say, or sometimes I'll say, because I can't not. So sometimes it's not that, I have good habits, I have my routine. Some high achievers, top 1%ers have that routine, they really follow it. But I think there are a couple other things that are more key. And one of them is the way they relate to challenges. I think that's more central than discipline, because how they relate to challenges and how they relate to life, then they behave in certain ways which are disciplined. So it doesn't start with discipline, it starts with other things, and then it leads to discipline. If you just have discipline, but you don't have that core passion and that relationship to some of the other factors. So let me mention two factors, if I may. One is the way they deal with obstacles. Now, this can run into trouble later, okay? But this is one of the things that is just over and over. They deal with obstacles. They find them exciting. They find them invigorating. They find them like, wow, okay, here's a challenge. I'd be bored without it. So they look at challenges and they look at obstacles, not as a bad thing, but as something that gets them really revved up, excited about life, excited about business, excited about whatever it is that they're dealing with. It's not like this horrible thing. It is what life is about. The way they deal with trauma is different. And some of it gets them into trouble later, because they tend to take problems and push them down, compartmentalize them, use them as fuel. They don't do enough integrating and discharging them, but they do something very different. They don't get stopped. And we could go into other things, but those are key. So when you are like, you're going to do something no matter what, right? And you've got that obstacle as like, you have that, there's no stopping you. It's like that next thing, any gap. When I ask them about gaps, what they say to me is a gap is really exciting. The gap between where I am and where I want to be, that's my fuel. And that's different for people who don't achieve. So I could talk about this for a long time. That's why I'm writing a book about it. I think those are some of the keys that then lead to, when people start with how do I be disciplined, I think they're missing where to start. I think it starts from what's important to you. Who do I need to be? And then the discipline is part of that, but it's not the starting. It's not the starting place.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our time's just about gone. Before we go, you see Rich's website there, hirecallingconsultingllc.com. Be sure and get in touch with Rich, or you can email him, rparsons@hirecallingconsultingllc.com. And of course, our wonderful guest today, Dr. K, her website is www.drkazlow.com. And her email is drk@drkazlow.com. On behalf of Rich and Dr. K, my goodness gracious, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. And I know that you know there's someone out there beside you that's going to need to hear this great message from Dr. K today and some of the great questions and comments that's been made by Rich. And I am just honored to be part of this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, love yourself first, then you can love others. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.